everyone. My name is Sarah Sipek, and I'm an associate editor with Workforce Magazine. I'm joined today by Liz Griggs, CEO of Canterbury, a leading healthcare and workers' compensation platform, and we're going to talk a little bit about opioid and drug addiction in the workplace. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
Great. Well, like I just introduced to our viewers, this is a huge issue. According to some recent CDC numbers that I pulled, almost 2 million Americans aged 12 and older either abused or were dependent on opioid pain relievers in 2015 alone. So it's a big issue. Talk to us a little bit about how it impacts the workplace, basically how it's impacting their day-to-day lives.
Well, across the United States and actually worldwide, we've talked about this, is that opioid has become a huge epidemic and is getting a lot of visibility. And I'm in the workers' comp industry, and for the last 2 decades have been building programs, products, and services around the key problems and issues that face workers, employers, insurance carriers, and how do we solve those problems, whether it's really focusing on getting workers back to work and functioning. The problem today, by far, is the growing cost of opioids. How do we, and I look at an injured worker or a worker on the job in 3 ways. One is at the early end, prevention. How do we prevent someone from, in the first place, getting on opioids? And we can talk about prevention in a minute. The middle part of someone on the job is engaging them, showing that you care about them, having wellness programs, having education programs ongoing. And the third piece is, okay, they actually are injured on the job. They lifted something, they pulled something. We see a lot of this with trucking companies, with manufacturers. Now, and most of the injuries are injuries of the back. 70% of the orders for diagnostic imaging, because they set up the largest and founded the largest diagnostic imaging company in the country for workers' comp 20 years ago. The goal was to find out what's going on with the injured worker. Do the diagnostic, take the test, they either go back to work or they actually have a musculoskeletal injury. Now, on that side of the end of the kind of the continuum and the life cycle of a worker, you're now dealing with someone who's actually injured. And here's where the spiraling effect takes place with opioids. They then go to the doctor and get some physical therapy, most likely is the second thing. After you've said, the image says, hey, you've hurt your back. Now, they go to physical therapy and they're still hurting. They end up going to a pain doctor, or it could be an orthopedic surgeon or any provider that can actually write a script to help them alleviate the pain. Most likely the prescription is written for oxycodone, methadone, but something that they could get addicted to. And the spiral starts because some of them may not want to get addicted. They're still hurt, their back's hurting, their shoulder's hurting, and the doctor writes another script. And that starts the spiral downward. And we're seeing more and more and more addicted people in this country. So since I deal with workers' comp, right now I'll just give you a statistic. In the workers' comp industry, there are 200,000 workers that are addicted to opioids sitting in the system. And I'll stop there because I could go on and just see if you have any questions about that and then what we're doing about it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think beneficial for our listeners at home would be the prevention steps. So since it's such a huge number right now, how do you get in on the ground floor and stop and prevent even more from becoming addicted?
Okay, so what you need to do, there's several things. We build on-site programs for corporations, and several things they need to do. Number one is they need to, because all of the opioid problem, it starts with someone actually has gotten injured and they get in the hands of the doctors. Because you can screen people, HR can screen, and they do a lot of this for their questionnaire before they hire them to see, okay, are they addicted? I mean, there's signs. You can tell by their behavior. You can tell by their application, a lot of things. But the majority of opioid addiction starts at the workplace. And mainly it's because they get injured and something happens to them, and then they end up in the hands of the provider. So what you need to do is set up the following prevention programs on site. And these are things that we've been doing for years. Is number one, do an ergonomic assessment of the employer site. You then set up job descriptions for each person so that you can actually tell whether someone can function doing the job they're being hired to do. We then do a functional capacity test, an evaluation, again, If you're being hired to lift 10 pounds and they're going to ask you to lift 30, you cannot do that job. And so you're basically, it's like the recipe for failure, right? So they go into the job, first thing they do, they lift it, they hurt their back, and there we go, right? So you have to first up, hey, let's set up the right job for this person, and we can move them into something else. Let's do an assessment on the job to see that the equipment is working. Let's educate them on the fact that here on site, there's going to be some things that you need to do. This is what you need. You need to bend down the right way. I mean, these sound like simple things for us, but most people don't know how to do that. And then having ongoing education sessions for the employees. You know, one section may just sit at the desk, so they're fine. They still could get carpal tunnel. And then each classification of job may have a different job description, most likely, and then ways that they should actually do the job in the right way. I'll pause there because I'm going to go into wellness in a minute, if you'd like me to go into that.
Actually, that was sort of my next lead-in question, so please, yes, the wellness aspect.
Okay, so I look at prevention as getting out of the gate and setting up the right protocols right at the outset. So now you've kind of set the stage for a healthy environment, and you've got now set up, until we set up the educational programs, and we've actually, a corporation asked us to do an ongoing stretching program. And it may sound really crazy, but you know what? They need to be reminded, because we forget how to do that job. We then set up a wellness program, and wellness is, and it's a lot of the HR people will know this as an employee-assisted program. It deals with depression. It just deals with stress. It deals with obesity, and a lot of these, and we call it psychosocial. This is going to become, I wrote an article on predictions for 2016 and where we're going to go. Number one was we need to deal with this opioid addiction. Number two, we need to really look at the root cause. Besides prevention programs, we need to look at the psychosocial aspect, because a lot of opioid addiction, and then I'm going to get into genetics, but is the fact that they come with problems. A lot of it is psychosocial. They deal with financial problems at home. They have a lot of stress, and they're saying, I cannot deal with this stress. I need to go to the doctor. And then the doctor says, we're going to help you deal with this, right? We're going to write a prescription. We're going to put you on antidepressant medicine. And then all of a sudden they go, well, I'm also feeling a lot of pain in my body. I just ache. There we go, right? And doctors, they don't know what to do. A lot of them will say, the good ones will say, hey, go on Advil, go home, see a psychologist. And by the way, we do have a national 17,000 psychologists that we have credentialed, and I'll go through that in a minute, where they are substance abuse specialists. So when they go to our psychologist, we deal with the employees on the phone first, we assess them, and then we see if they actually need someone that can help them with the substance abuse. So it's prevention, engagement on site, engage them with programs, ongoing education, depression. Our EAP programs, employee assistance programs, the HR directors know that they have our program. They educate them, and they say, look, if you're feeling this way, report it to us, and then they turn them over to our care coordinators, and which is our call center of psychologists, psychiatrists for the real severe ones, and then just care coordinators or case managers. I'm going to pause there just for a second to see if you have any questions.
Oh, actually, I feel from our perspective that makes sense in terms of the progression. So you're covering those coming in, taking care of those who then have the issue. Any final steps?
And then what we do is, once they get in to see the psychologist will do an assessment. We don't want this to become an ongoing thing, because the employers want them back to work. Tell us what the problem is. Okay, there's initially in the assessment, if it's something like stress, they can deal with that, and they help solve that and get them in the right hands to deal with what the stress issues are. Maybe a family intervention. But when you see someone who's really clearly addicted, what we need to do is nip it in the bud. So we have a national detox program, and we put them inpatient to help them detox. And it could be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And employers sign, us up, and the payers, to say, we need these people to get detoxed. We have another program too, which is a drug testing program. And we put this in place so that we could test, and we're the first ones. I'm going to tell you what we're doing, and we are the only ones in workers' comp, and we're rolling this out, and I'm just absolutely excited about this. We do the drug testing right when the pharmacy, they'll give us a data data dump, and I know this might be getting technical, but at a certain point we put a protocol or marker in. And if that person is at a level where we know they're just about to go down the chain, it's at 100 equivalent dose, it's a level. We then do the urine drug testing and we see, are they taking the drugs? Because they could be selling the drugs. Are they, what inside that test, we say, what can it tell us? At this point, we do a genetic test. The genetic test tells you whether you can metabolize the test, whether your genetic makeup could be addictive to that drug, because here's the problem, and we have an exclusive only with this genetic testing company where we can offer this to the carriers. What's happened over the years, and I took the test, is that some people their body cannot absorb oxycodone. So they're sitting there taking it, and they have an addictive makeup, a genetic makeup for that drug. They should be on something else. So it's not even working, right? So now they've gone addicted to something that never worked in the first place. These are things that we should have been addressing years ago. And this has come about because of this big problem. So we're bringing this to the carriers. So besides the engagement and educating them and listening to their problems and doing a detox program, we're also doing a testing for those who are already on the meds to nip it in the bud before they start that spiral downwards.
Wonderful. My only follow-up to that is, I know just in readings that I've done, legal becomes an issue. So sort of what you can do and what you can't do in terms of state laws. Is there anything that an employer should be worried about before implementing a program like this, just in terms of maybe stepping on employees' rights? How do you help them without putting your company at risk, I suppose?
That's a very good question. What happens with the lawyers, you've got a lot of lawyers that are all over this because they think, okay, perfect case, I'm going to take them on, I'm going to defend them. And so I think it's really critical for employers, number one, to have these programs in place to get in before that becomes a problem where the lawyer steps in. Right? So this is why prevention and ongoing wellness is just critical. Because if we never get to the point where someone has to have a detox program, and then we won't have the lawyers in place. The other thing to protect them is if they have these programs, they can say, we set up prevention programs. Did they go to those prevention programs? So that protects them. We had ongoing wellness and education. Did you go? Did you show up? And we put that in place. That protects them. We have a detox program and a step down and other drugs that they can be on. So if the employer can document, and we do reporting for all of this, that they've done these, they get into a court and the lawyer says, well, you know what, you really didn't do anything for the employee. Well, we did this, and we did this. Okay. The other thing is, if we do these programs, they won't get an enhancing employers. And there's a third, with the lawyers. So there's so much that the employers to this point have not done. They haven't had these programs in place. The other thing is that we credential and set up protocols for the doctors. So we're hitting every aspect. So that doctor, if we know that they're writing the second script, we will pull them out of the network, and with the employers, we put in the ones that we know are the ones that are not the abusers, right? So we're hitting every aspect, from ongoing education to prevention programs to protocols for the doctors, right? To a protocol before they start to get addicted. And you can see every step along the way, we have specialists that handle all those things. I have industrial prevention specialists, I have ongoing wellness specialists and education specialists, I have employee assistance programs, and then I have a detox team. So we're hitting all of it. Oh, one last thing. We literally have hit everything, because I've been doing this for 23 years, and all I've done for the last 23 years is build programs around the employer's needs. So we set up roundtables to hear, what are your problems, how do we address them, what programs, and then I have a real seasoned workers' comp industrial team experts. We call it industrial wellness, musculoskeletal wellness. All of that is built around what they're facing, the issues they're facing today.
Excellent. Liz, this has been wonderful. So much great information for our viewers in a nice little compact package there. This has been great. We just want to thank you for your time, and then thank everyone at home for watching.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.